welcome to the Forging Honor podcast. I'm Jonathan George.
And I'm Benjamin Jones. Here at The Forge, we explore what it means to live as Christian men. Along the way, we'll be doing weekly challenges to build character through action. We are by no means experts, just two young Christian men trying to make sense of a wild world.
That's right. We do our best to learn and hope you'll join us on the journey. And if you want to get directly involved, go to forginghonor.com to find information on how to join our community.
This is episode 27. Hindsight is 2023.
Oh, hilarious episode title that Banjo himself came up with, and he's not even a dad.
I don't know. There's not many, if we look over our episodes, we have some that are serious, titles, that is, and we have some that are not serious, and we have some that are clever, and we have some that are not so clever. This is one of those ones, trying to be clever, and when I said it out loud, it was not so clever. But I think we have to keep it in, because again, hindsight is in fact 2023. So,
no, just pushing in there a little further.
Doubling down.
Well, very good. Challenge wrap-up time. This time it's going to look a little bit different if you've been listening to our episodes. Usually we are reviewing a particular challenge that we've been doing over the course of 10 days, trying to work on something for about 10 minutes each day, just improve our habits in some way. This time, the challenge was kind of a year in review challenge, do some journaling on their year in review. We didn't even have a full 10 days to do it in. And then there was also a portion that was to look ahead. So we're going to take this time to kind of do that for Forging Honor as a podcast and talk about where we've come from, where we're going. It's been just over a full year now. Actually, it's been we've had a full year's worth of episodes, but this episode marks a full year of Forging Honor being on air. So I'm very excited about that. We've come a long way. Banjo, how's it been for you in this little journey of ours?
It's been a lot of fun. I really enjoy getting to do this every 2 weeks. I always look forward to our early morning talks, bleary-eyed as we often are. And as we said last week, really just feel fortunate that people are listening in, however many of you are, in fact, out there. We enjoy doing it and are just glad someone else is listening. But, we've always talked about JJ even from the start. Like, this is the thing that we wanted to do, and we were going to do it just, even if it was just the two of us getting to talk every week, and we were just going to record it. And I think there was a lot of value to that. And looking back over what we've, I don't know if I want to say accomplished, but what we've done. Yeah, maybe I do want to say accomplished. We've gotten a lot done over the last year, and there's a lot of things that I don't think that I would have done if we haven't been doing this podcast. So there's some things where I think, wow, we really did. That was a really cool thing. I'm really glad we're doing this. And there's some other things I think where the whole purpose of the podcast is to challenge one another and to push ourselves to make sure that we're walking with the Lord and conducting ourselves in a manner that is honorable. And I think there are some ways where we could get more uncomfortable and we could push ourselves a little bit more. So I'm looking forward to, pushing on into 2024 and pushing the envelope a little bit on, how much more uncomfortable can we get? I don't know. What do you think of 2023?
For sure. I think looking back to just over a year ago when we were really starting to work on this podcast, having Elliot help us with some music and having my brother-in-law help with logos, that kind of thing. And then really working through what would this look like. I think that we have accomplished the goals that we set out to accomplish. Like, I told myself, we're going to make it at least 1 year. I wanted to accomplish, I'm going to set myself, this isn't school, this isn't work, this isn't something that someone else is telling me to do or that necessity is forcing me to do.
Yeah.
This is something that we are doing because we feel that as young men, it's good for us to challenge each other in these habits. And now we've made it a year. So that checks off that box, that goal. And then you were saying, maybe it was last episode or we were talking, you're like, you didn't think we'd make it 6 months or something like that. So we've doubled that goal.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty thrilled with that, just on a basic level. Like from a measurable standpoint, we have accomplished what we set out to accomplish on that front. We have more than 0 listeners. So that's pretty fantastic. Actually, our average has been higher than I thought it would be, and I'm very happy about that. And yeah, we have decent reviews. Like in terms of all of the measurable things that a podcast can be concerned with, I'm very, very happy with where we are. Like, no, we're not getting insane numbers and we don't have a crazy number of listeners. I don't care. We have achieved everything that a podcast in its first year, who we've been working at it, and we have released an episode, sometimes a little bit late, but we have released every episode that we said we would release. And I'm very excited about that. When it comes to us individually, as young men, as young Christian men, and as we always say in the opening of this podcast, we're on a journey to figure this stuff out, right? We're learning. The question is, have we learned? Have we grown? Have we established better habits? And I think that's where some of the journaling that we did in these last couple of weeks comes in, because you can have a successful podcast, or you can, however you measure that, you can grow your online presence or whatever you're talking about. But if you don't grow as an individual and as a person, it's all kind of wasted. At least that's the perspective I have. So I would say that I think in some ways we have grown, and I think in other ways we've grown in ways that I did not expect. So I'd like to dive into that a little bit, Banjo.
Oh, just like flat out what you
yeah, just that's what we're going for.
I thought there was a question that was going to be on the end of that, but
okay. I mean, if anything, the question might be, do you think, for yourself and for me, and you're observing of me, do you think that working through these habits 2 weeks at a time has been truly beneficial to us?
Truly beneficial to us. And let me state for the record that these questions on the show, this is, as Kermit the Frog once said to Fozzie Bear, spontaneous, unrehearsed.
Yeah, we're unscripted. So folks have said before, your show sounds a little scripted. I'm like, well, that's funny, because we've never had a script except for like the opening bit and the outro bit.
That's our only time. We just have that little chemistry together that everything that we say sounds wonderful.
Everything sounds scripted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, no. But thinking off the cuff, how have they been beneficial or not? Yes and no. Like, I think there are things that we have tried because of this podcast, like I never would have tried. So, for example,
anything specific?
Yeah, the fasting challenge that we did.
Oh, I forgot about that one. Yeah, that was fun.
That's the one that I have always thought about. Oh, that's like a spiritual practice, and maybe I should do it.
Right.
I've always been a little bit anxious about trying it, or not wanting to. It's very uncomfortable, and it was unpleasant, and I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to make a big deal out of it, and so
sure.
But looking back, it's one of those things. I think about it fairly often, and it was really educational for me, and I think it did help me to rely on God more, and it gave me a better sense of like, oh, okay, so this is the limitations of the human body. And, this is maybe why this is good to do. And, maybe a way that I probably wouldn't do it the same way.
Right.
If I were to do it again.
You did learn from it, even if it's not.
Yeah. Like if somebody was like, I'm fasting.
Itself was different. Yeah.
Yeah. If somebody was telling me that they were doing a fast for 2 weeks, I would be like, how are you doing it and why? Like I feel like I would be able to participate in the conversation.
Right.
So on things like that, I really think that's been helpful. And I've really appreciated that. On the flip side, I've been really self-conscious the last like 2 or 3 weeks about this really funny habit that guys have. I think, I don't know if girls do it too, but I think guys really do it, where guys have this thing where we talk about things that we don't know anything about with the authority of people who have spent their lives in it.
I know everything about this particular thing.
Yeah. I was having a conversation with my brother-in-law a couple of weeks ago, and we both sat down and we were like, we know nothing about basketball. And neither of us knew anything about basketball. We proceeded to talk for like a solid half hour, lamenting the state of the NBA, talking about how there's no defense. Well, the game isn't the same since Michael Jordan, and but LeBron is this great, all this stuff.
When's the last time you even watched a game?
I haven't watched an NBA game in maybe like 3 years. Like it's been forever, since I sat down. But I'm speaking on it with this authority, and I just think it's one of those really funny things that guys do, where I think we feel the need to. I think it's one of those like competitive things where we learn about one another. Like we figure out who the other person is through this like competitive dance of language, and I love it. I think it's a lot of fun. But very often those conversations happen, and nothing is really accomplished, and nothing is really stated, except for this kind of general like goodwill sense between goodwill to all, peace to men. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I love that. But I think if I may put it this way, at our worst, our podcast is just that. Is that it's you and me having a good time, which I love. I love having that good time.
Right. We're having fun.
And maybe some folks listening along are also having fun with that. And I think when the couple of times that we were able to have people on to engage in conversation with us, that was a lot of fun, because we got to get a third party in here and really get to bounce around a little bit. But I think this is a general statement, but I think one thing is young men, that we need to be aware of is, just talking about something doesn't make us wise in it. Doesn't make us growing in it. Doesn't make us, any different. And just listening to a podcast about or hosting a podcast about Christian masculinity doesn't make you more of a Christian young man. Doesn't make you walk more with God necessarily. And I think looking into 2024, that's one of the things I would like to challenge myself more on, is like, okay, so what are the spiritual disciplines that I need to grow in? Am I really, am I really walking in a way that is countercultural? Am I really living a life that is, as my grandfather always, when we leave the house from my grandfather's, he always says WW, which means walk worthy. And so I think the question is, am I actually doing that? Am I really WW? Am I really walking worthy? Always knowing, always trusting that our salvation is secure, but are we living as if our salvation is secure, or are we living in a way that's more in line with the world? You know what I mean?
Right.
So I don't know. What do you think? Any specific things from the year that you're like, man, I'm really glad we did that, or this really changed me in some way?
Well, I think what you're saying is exactly right about, just talking about something does not make you an expert. I think, and that's why we said we wanted this to be a podcast of action, not a podcast of just two talking heads doing our thing. Right. There's a million of those. And we wanted this to be something where, other people could work alongside with us. And it was really cool. Like I had a couple of my friends listening and doing the challenges with us, and I got to discuss that. That also meant I got a fair amount of critiquing for, hey, that challenge is kind of a dumb idea. Some of that stuff.
What's the worst idea we've had? What's the worst challenge we've done?
Well, it depends on how you clarify, how you define challenge. I think while everyone that I was talking to really enjoyed it, everyone I've talked to since has said, that wasn't a great challenge for forging honor, because it's not something that can be turned into a habit.
Which one?
That was the Cormac McCarthy one.
Oh, the Cormac McCarthy one. Oh, interesting.
And because while it's very interesting to do and was very enjoyable, and we all had a ton of fun reading Cormac McCarthy, it was not like, all right, and what's the habit out of that, right? What's the lasting principle to be gained here? And I think there were some things like that where, especially with some of the honor journal stuff, where we were going to journal on about whatever it was, we did a lot more of that early on, and I think that those were less. Those were more, some personal exploration, which could be good, but they were not something that we turned into a habit long term. And right, and if the purpose of this is to grow as young men, those things can be good, but we are focusing on the habits as well. So I don't know. It kind of depends on what the point of the podcast is, and we've been, we've discussed different ideas. So I think in that area specifically, that's something that we could improve on in terms of picking challenges and picking habits that are something that someone might want to stick with for the rest of their lives. Things like, I thought like the cold water shower was one that could be really good. Like that was a
Mm-hmm.
phenomenal, that people talk about that all the time. I know a lot of folks that swear by it, and it's all over the internet. It's something that could be worth trying, right? And like that perfectly fits the bill for what a Forging Honor challenge is, or like some of the exercise ones, or the um, scripture reading ones that we did, just various, anything along those
The
lines. I think are
tangible,
really,
practical.
yeah, a little more tangible and practical. Not that journaling, I think one of the ones that was more helpful and that has stuck with me is the evening reflection. So it's less journaling and more evening reflection about your specific day and how you want the next day to look. Um, that was a challenge. I can't remember which number that was, but that one I really enjoyed and appreciated
Yeah.
because uh, that was a very tangible type of journaling, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no,
So
that makes sense.
I think you're right, and I think that's why, you know, we've talked about some changes going forward with Forging Honor um, to the structure, and I think we're pretty much agreed at this point. Like those changes would be good, so we could introduce those and talk about those a little bit, Banjo.
Yeah, are there any other like things from the year that you want to talk about first?
Uh, Not right now. I'm sure I'll have some stuff in a minute, but
All right, carry on then.
sweet. Um, well, we've talked about changes to Forging Honor and nothing crazy. The main thing is lengthening the time for each challenge.
Not for each
So it's
episode. Don't panic.
right,
You
right.
don't have an hour and a half
Oh
listen every.
no, we're going from 45 minutes to 3
we
hours.
we did
Get
some test
ready.
studies. You wanted 4-hour episodes. We thought that was a bit much, but we'll deliver, dear listener. No,
We're
we're not doing
excited to
that.
talk more. Yeah. No, so we will be doing instead of one challenge per episode, which was lined up to every 2 weeks, we'll be doing one challenge for every 2 or 3. So that lines up to about 4 to 6 weeks, depending on the challenge. And the idea there is it gives us a little more time in between to talk about that specific challenge. I think that's been part, like the really good challenges we haven't had as much time to really get into. And I think
Yeah.
if we kind of cleared out some of the fluff and stuck to the really good stuff, we'd have more time to dig into it. And that would also allow us to solve the problem Banjo brought up of we are not experts, but we could be bringing people on who are.
Yes.
So we would like to spend more time on each individual challenge and allow us to bring on experts in those challenges and learn about whatever the habit is that we're trying to do. And I think that's going to allow us to revisit some of the old stuff, kind of cash away the first year of Forging Honor and call it, yeah, that was a great first year. And I'm very happy that we did that. But I think if we really want to grow as Christian men, we need to delve a little deeper. And that's what we're going to try and do.
Yeah, we got a good team. We made it. We got a winning record. Got ourselves into a bowl game, but bowl games are not championships. We got to win ourselves. Sorry,
Right.
I've been watching a lot of football the last couple of days because it's college football bowl season. So I'm in that zone.
You're excited. Yeah.
I'm excited. If you are a Florida State fan right now, I'm really, really sorry. If you're not, you're having a great day. But if you are a Florida State fan, I'm really, really sorry.
I haven't paid any attention, so I'm in good shape.
Yeah. Georgia just beat Florida State 63-3. So there's that.
Wow.
Yeah. Speaking of fluff, yeah, I'm excited about this kind of expanding the episode situation. I'm really excited about bringing in more folks to talk to. One, just because I think those are some of our more fun episodes where we get to talk to different people and hear different opinions, and we get to bounce off of them a little bit more, and hopefully, bringing in some. We got to talk to really friends of ours in the last times that we did this, way back at the beginning, and I'm hopeful that we can bring in some real maturity, some real folks much older and wiser than ourselves.
People we can legitimately learn from.
Yeah. Some of our elders and betters, so to speak. Not that we didn't learn from the people who came on previous episodes, but people with PhDs would be nice.
Right,
So
right.
we're
Or at
looking
least
to
masters.
at least masters. Yeah,
At least, or they've been experts in their field for a long time or something. I don't know.
yeah.
That's the idea anyway.
That's the idea. And if folks listening in have ideas of either people they would like to hear from or topics they would like to have us discuss, that's one thing I would really love to be able to do more. I mean, we pretty much focus on putting the podcast out every 2 weeks. One of the things I'm hoping with the longer form is that we get more time to put some of the other stuff out that we have always wanted to do. Focus more maybe on our website a little bit. I've always wanted to write more articles for the site, and I just haven't with the time crunch and different things. And so I'm hoping with the new rhythm and routine, we can start to put some more stuff out, get some more engagement with listeners, and hear more of y'all's ideas and not just our ideas.
It'll be good. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
What is the thing you are most looking forward to, aside from the website stuff that you just already mentioned? Is there anything else you're especially looking forward to, Banjo?
Especially looking forward to. Again, the long pause of unrehearsed thought here. I think for me, one of the things I've been thinking about is I am not an old man, and I am still quite young.
Mm.
Boyish, really, is the phrase.
You could try growing some more facial hair. That would help.
I tried that, and the missus did not like it. Missus was not there for it.
Tragic.
Yeah, it is what it is. But thinking about where I am in life, I feel, I don't know how you feel, JJ, because you're older than I am. You have
by what, like a year?
Probably a year, but
I'm so
not
much
too.
older
Probably.
and wiser than you, Banjo.
And you're in a little older of a life stage than me.
Yeah, I guess I do have the kid.
You do have a kid.
That changes things
Yeah.
very rapidly.
And so I feel like I'm in the stage of life where I have like all these options out in front of me, but if I don't start choosing one, I'm gonna get pulled away by the undertow, so to speak, and drown in the infinite. And I need to start laying down some track.
Getting a little too poetic there, but okay.
Yeah, well, it's me. I need to start I need to start really setting down some things. Really need to start heading in a direction, And I think looking to what 2024 may bring, Lord willing, I'm hoping that 2024 is going to be a year of, okay, so let me start in this direction. Let me go this way. Let me make some decisions, and really close off some of the possibilities. But really, in closing out the possibilities, narrow down the focus to say, okay, so I'm going to go pursue this degree, or I'm going to go take this job, or some of those things. Because I get in this place where I think that this is where I am, and this is the only place that I'll ever be, and I get really stagnant. And I'm hoping that even in the way that we try to push ourselves on the show, I hope that that will carry over to me starting to push myself in some new directions and starting to get a little more initiative. I'm going to get up off the bench. Let's say that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
How about you? 2024. What's JJ? What is JJ 2024 edition going to accomplish or be?
Yeah, I think a lot for me, as I've journaled, is I really want to, I guess similarly, I look at other people around me and I go, wow, they're at a much further along life stage. And I think I'm about to enter a period of learning again. You do school for so long, high school and college, and you think you're done after college. You're not. No one's done.
No.
But there is a period of time like I got my feet underneath me, I got married, got a job, got a house, we have a kid, and we're growing our family. We've got another one on the way. There's a lot going on. And I'm realizing that if I don't buckle down and kind of like what you're saying, pick the next thing, it's gonna pick me.
Yeah.
And if I'm putting myself around the right people, the right friends, in the right situations, that next thing is probably going to be pretty good. That said, I need to be active about that, and I need to be learning, and I need to be focusing on growing myself and accelerating in the areas that I am competent in. Um, so that's and I see that as I need to lay a good foundation for learning. And I think, this is I'm now, what am I, 25, 26? I don't know. However many years I am out of college, and I haven't been actively learning in that time. Like I haven't had it forced on me. So I've just
Do you feel
kind of
that? Do you feel like you haven't been actively learning?
not in a I'm going to sit down and pursue this kind of way. I'll sit down, I'll read a book, or I'll listen to some podcast about a subject that I'm interested in, but I haven't given anything the serious thought that I gave in college. Does that make
Because
sense?
I see you as a very active learner in the world. Like I look up to you as a person who's like, oh wow, look at what he's going and accomplishing. Look at what that's a
Oh, that's
guy
funny.
who's got his nose to the grindstone kind of a thing. And by comparison, I feel like, man, I am not like I spend all my time in books, but I
Sure,
don't go out
sure.
and do the thing. You know what I mean? So it's one of those grass is always greener things.
Well, that's absolutely true. The grass is always greener, and I've had to learn to recognize that. There's also the fact that um, it's easy to compare yourself to others, but you need to be comparing yourself to yourself, right? And I look at myself and I say, if I'm comparing myself to who I was yesterday, do I see an improvement? In some areas, yes, massive improvements. I've learned to be competent as an adult in the adult world, right? I have a wife and a child. Like I'm much happier with that than I was when I was 18 or 19, starting out in college and miserable in certain areas. It's just that's what it was. But in other ways, I've lost a lot of the habits that I really valued, and I'm less competent in certain areas. So I think um, when I do that, when I do that comparison to who I was however many years ago, I want to pick and choose the pieces that I would want to bring along.
Yeah.
Um, and then same looking forward, right? If I want to compare like, who am I going to be next year? What's that comparison going to look like? The current Jonathan today with future Jonathan, what's that comparison?
Yeah.
A year's difference. I want it to look good, right? So, there, if like you might have that perspective of me being a learner, all that stuff. That's great. Um, but maybe it's just my own guilt being like, well, it's not enough. It's not enough.
Yeah.
Because I think I
And
have that a little bit sometimes where I look at
mhm.
myself and I'm like, we set out these challenges and I didn't finish them all perfectly. I have this guilt thing of like, I gotta keep up. Because I look at you and like you did better on all the challenges than I did. I think there was maybe one or two
Yeah.
where I did better than you. And that is one of those things where I have to constantly be telling myself, well, did I do better than myself on the last challenge? Now, did I do better than Banjo? Am I improving?
Right. Yeah. No, I hear you. Though I think even there, one thing that I have to work on, and I think it's a general thing. You know, not even there can even be unhealthy things in comparing oneself to oneself, uh, because I think Kierkegaard talks about if you compare yourself to yourself, you're always going to feel inadequate, and you're always going to beat yourself up, and then you're just going to start doing that again and again and again and again and again. But his argument um, is more about you should always be comparing yourself to Christ, not because you're going to measure up, but because you're always going to be aware of your failings, and that failing will always drive you back. Should always drive you back to the cross, not to well, I didn't accomplish anything, but to well, Christ accomplished it for me. You know, but even in that, you need to be aware that you need to be aware that you've fallen short, but that's not the end of the world. That's not that's not separating you from the love of the Father because you have Christ who has fulfilled all things for you.
Right.
Um,
That makes
and I
sense.
and I think I think that's hard, especially you hear a lot about Catholic guilt.
Right.
You know, the thing about Catholic guilt has nothing on Presbyterian guilt or Protestant guilt because Protestant guilt you have no confession. You know,
Right.
there's no time where you get to go in the little box and and confess your sin, and then you do the thing, and then you pay your penance for it. Um, and if you're if you're Calvinist, added to which, you have this predestination thing, where you're like, well, if I'm one of the elect, then I better keep up. I
Right,
better I
right.
better play ball here. And I think that can be just as debilitating as the Catholic guilt of have I done enough?
Mm-hmm.
Have I? It's the Presbyterian version is have I, you know, have I let God down? You know, um, and I think the message of the gospel is you know you live your life not because you need to meet a standard, because you will never meet the standard. You
Mm-hmm.
live your life grateful to the one who has lived and who has died and who has lived and died as the standard for you. Um, and now our life is a life of gratitude. It's not a life of indentured servitude. Well, maybe it is if you want to look at it that way, but it's
Well,
not.
yeah.
It's not a life of self-flagellation, or crucifying ourselves or re-crucifying Christ. It's no, this is accomplished, this is applied, this is done. And if that's true, then we're new creation. We are new beings in the world. Um, and really, I think what we're aiming at, JJ, is not so much, are we better than we were yesterday? It's, are we living as the new creations that we are? Are we
Mm,
living lives that reflect the reality that our sins are forgiven and our price has been paid, and now we are brothers with Christ, sons of God, adopted into this family? Are we living
mm-hmm.
that life? Are we living that truth? Or are we living in the old life? Are we living as the old men that we were? Um, and I think there's just a lot more. There's opportunity for just recognizing how beautiful and how hopeful our life can be with that mindset.
Right. That makes a lot of sense, and I think that's a good mindset to have. I think I was more talking about the trap of comparison to others, and so like there's one aspect of comparing myself to who I was yesterday and who I might be tomorrow might be, am I living more in that hope? I think with the comparison thing, I think it would be a good thing to compare ourselves and compare ourselves to ourselves and try to recognize, are we living more in that reality? Um, right? Because we don't want to. I do think comparing ourselves to other people can be very bad. I think it can be good to say, hey, here's a role model, somebody I want to be like. But it's much better to look at yourself and say, have I made progress since yesterday? Because we are called to live in that hope, and as part of that, we are called to grow to be better men, better Christians. That doesn't mean it's salvific in any way, but it's something that we're meant to strive for, right? We're supposed to
Mm,
be a shining light to the world, and that's part of how we do that. Um, so I think, kind of coming back to the podcast, it's less about, oh, we're gonna go do the self-help stuff that these other podcasts are doing. We're gonna do all these challenges, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, that's fine. You can do that. But we're more wanting to take it into the context of, okay, here's a habit. Let's read scripture every day. Let's try ice bathing. I don't know. Let's see, how does it
oh,
apply
let's
the
not do
gospel
that.
in our lives. Let's learn about that, and let's see what God has for us there. Or fasting. You liked
Hmm.
that. Um, let's see what we can learn from that. And can we grow? Does doing this actually enable us to grow as Christian men or not? That's the question we need to ask of each of these challenges.
Yeah.
Um, so with that said, uh, we don't need to transition to the next challenge, because we're just having a conversation here. This next challenge, going back to the basics, to read scripture every day. Um, we're thinking something like 10 minutes or a full chapter. If you want to dwell on like one verse for 10 minutes, that's fine. Just read scripture every day. Our plan is to have on a couple of pastors or folks who are biblically minded, and they know what they're talking about, and just learn from them. What are these benefits? What to be looking out for as you read scripture. But for these next couple of weeks, as we start the new year, just start with scripture. Um, and I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be good to go back and go back to the beginning, as it were. bonus section at the end of the episode. We're excited to introduce, not live, but we are together in person. We are on air with my brother Elliot. He's our producer. He does the music. He makes the podcast sound good.
Very good.
Hey, everybody.
That's very good.
I don't know how many folks are going to listen to this bit, but I'm excited for them to get to know you. Anyway, so we're just have a couple minutes here. So we've just wrapped up an episode talking about the year in review and what we're going to be doing this next year.
I actually have so many questions for Elliot because I never talked to Elliot.
Ask away, Banjo.
We'll see if I have answers.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so curious. Do you ever do the things that we're talking about? Or are you just like, wow, these guys really like talking about whatever they do in a week?
Yeah. So I'll admit I haven't done everything, but I do track along, and when I'm editing the video, my favorite portions are to hear the first bit of y'all's the challenge that you're wrapping up, and then I always listen to the new challenge coming up to see what it is. I don't always have time to listen to the whole episode, but I often am able to listen to it after it's up. But yeah, I don't track along with all the challenges, but some of them I really enjoy doing. So yeah.
I have to ask now, what's the best one that we've done? Like, is there one that you're like, okay, that one was worth doing and I'm glad we did that one?
Yeah. So the best one in terms, and this is a little cheat here, but the one that fit with what I do the best was when you guys were talking about practicing your craft. That one, that was a good one for me because I already do it. So
he's in the studio all the time.
So that one was a little cheat, but I enjoyed being conscious of that. Being conscious of, hey, I'm going along with that challenge, and I can think for these 10 minutes to however many hours I'm spending on my craft that day. Hey, I'm consciously working on this and getting better. So that was a fun one to be conscious of.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I have to ask the flip of that. What's the one that you're like, oh my goodness, can we please just skip this one? Do they really think this is a good idea? Yeah,
definitely the cold water one. Dude, I didn't even do it. I'll admit, I just didn't. I don't like cold water. I've been in some very, very cold water, and I do not like it. So that's one that I should do, and then I can actually see what you guys saw and see the benefits. Yeah. See the other side, but I didn't. I'll admit it.
Well, sweet. So you do some other podcasts too, or you've helped with other podcasts,
I've helped on and off for mainly the music. This is the only podcast that I've done the editing of, so I've learned a lot.
That's awesome. Well, we love having you do it. It's a ton of fun. I'm a little plug for my brother. Do you have music out there that people can listen to?
Not at the moment, but coming up this spring, it's coming up.
Okay, so, sweet. He has a ton of music, Banjo, and listeners. He has a ton of music. He showed me. It's awesome. I think it's really great. I've been telling him he needs to put it out there for folks. He's really good at what he does. So
I'm really excited. I'm excited to listen to Elliot's music.
Forewarning, it is mostly electronic, and I've heard you say in the past.
That's right. He's like, oh yeah.
Hey, but it's fun. I enjoy it. So
no, I think it's great. I listen to plenty of electronic. I just need my big mouth.
No. I actually completely agree with you as well. That in terms of perfecting your craft and playing real instruments, I appreciated it. So
okay, well, let's go. All right, let's do this thing.
All right, go for it.
This has been the Forging Honor podcast. Music and production is by Elliot George. For more information about what we do or to learn how to get involved, visit our website at forginghonor.com. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to like, subscribe, and give us a rating to bring others into the Forging Honor journey.
On our website, you'll find information on how to do the challenges alongside us, as well as links to the many resources we mentioned in the show.
And we do make a small amount from any purchases you make through our website links, so thank you in advance.
Thanks for taking the time with us today. We hope you'll take up the work alongside us and join us in the task of Forging Honor. We'll see you next time.